so many of you. So many of you lost someone you love. Husband, wife, son, daughter, mom, dad. Cancer is the #2 cause of death in America, second only to heart disease. Last month, I announced the plan to supercharge the cancer moonshot that President Obama asked me to lead 6 years ago. Our goal is to cut cancer death rates by at least 50% over the next 25 years. I think we can do better than that. Turn cancers from death sentences into treatable diseases. More support for patients and their families. To get there, I call on Congress to fund what I call ARPA-H, Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health, patterned after DARPA in the Defense Department. Projects that led in DARPA to the internet, GPS, and so much more to make our forces more safer and be able to wage war with more clarity. ARPA will have a singular purpose: to drive breakthroughs in cancer, Alzheimer's and diabetes, and more. A unity agenda for the nation. We can do these things. It's within our power, and I don't see a partisan edge to any one of those 4 things. My fellow Americans, tonight we've gathered in this sacred space, a citadel of democracy, in this Capitol. Generation after generation of Americans have debated great questions amid great strife and have done great things. We fought for freedom, expanded liberty, debated totalitarianism and terror. We built the strongest, freest, and most prosperous nation the world has ever known. Now is the hour, our moment of responsibility, our test of resolve and conscience, of history itself. It is in this moment that our character of this generation is formed. Great things. We fought for freedom, expanded liberty, debated totalitarianism and terror. We built the strongest, freest, and most prosperous nation the world has ever known.
I have to use YouTube because
now is the hour.
Apparently, when I use YouTube
our
TV,
moment of responsibility,
which is what I use to watch my
our
television,
test of
for the most
resolve
part,
and
is YouTube
conscience
TV.
of history itself.
It doesn't let you share screens, similar
It is in
to
this moment
Hulu.
that our character of this
Hulu
generation
doesn't allow
is
you to
formed.
share the screen either.
Our purpose
There's
is
many
found.
times where I would use
Our future
Hulu
is
and stream
forged.
it directly to my TV.
Well, I know this
And
nation.
if I'm not using the actual
We'll meet the
application
test.
on my TV or
Protect freedom and
on
liberty.
my
Expand fairness
phone,
and
and
opportunity.
I try to cast it
And
to
we
the
will
TV
save
without
democracy.
actually, going
As
in
hard
there
as
and
those
actually
times
doing
have been,
anything.
I'm more
It
optimistic
will do
about
the same
America
thing.
today than I've
Play the
been my
audio,
whole
but
life,
it will have a
because I
blank
see the
screen.
future
So
that's
the
within our
reason why you
grasp.
couldn't see anything for a
Because
good
I know
moment
there's
there.
simply nothing beyond our
But
capacity.
you should
We're the
be able
only
to see
nation
it
on
now.
earth that has always turned every crisis we've faced into an opportunity. The only nation that can be defined by a single word: possibilities. So on this night, on our 245th year as a nation, I've come to report on the state of the nation, the State of the Union. And my report is this: the State of the Union is strong because you, the American people, are strong. We are stronger today. We are stronger today than we were a year ago.
We're in the worst position today
And we'll
than
be
we were
stronger a year from
by a
now
long shot.
than we are today. This is our moment
Inflation is through.
to meet and
Nobody
overcome
can
the
afford
challenges of our
anything.
time.
Too many
And we
people
will,
come in the border every
as
day.
one people,
There's a war
one
going
America,
on right
the
now.
United States of America. God bless you all, and may God protect our
I
troops.
know I tuned in a little bit late,
Thank you.
but
Go get him.
I was in the middle of watching a different debate, but I know I tuned in a bit late, so we'll probably rewind and take a look at some of the key highlights and whatnot. As a matter of fact, while that's doing that, I'll go back over to YouTube TV. always forget how to get over there. Just go back over there.
All right, as
on the ground in Ukraine, but to shore up NATO allies if Vladimir Putin expands his invasion west. He talked of unity and trying to squeeze Putin with sanctions together with these countries. Now, if you took the over on the use of the word folks or look on Fox Bet, you had a pretty good night tonight. The president touted COVID restrictions being pulled off across the country, on Capitol Hill and at the White House. And obviously, there's been a lot of skepticism about the timing of all of that days before this speech. You mentioned law enforcement, funding. This is, by the way, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Let's listen in here. Just having conversations with lawmakers. Funding the police, a big applause line. Here's the thing. The president has very low approval ratings now on every major issue he talked about tonight. And there were a lot of different topics. Illegal immigration surge at the border, inflation at a 40-year high, surging crime in big cities, energy costs on the rise, even more now with Ukraine. So there was a choice this White House had. Some big new policy initiatives or a big shift in policy or a new sales pitch for the same policy. While there were some new projects in there, I didn't hear a big policy shift, and arguably the sales pitch is roughly the same, minus the 3 words, Build Back Better, legislation that stalled on Capitol Hill. He didn't say the 3 words together, but talked about the same policy. This president, as he's walking out of this hall, is politically in a vulnerable place, but he's dealing on a big stage in foreign policy and a big moment for the world. Let's bring in senior political analyst Britt Hume. Good evening, Britt. Your thoughts on this speech?
Well, it reminded me of a lot of other State of the Union addresses that I've heard, and I know you and Martha have heard as well. It was very much, once he got past the Ukraine piece of it at the beginning of the speech, it was very much the kind of laundry list of initiatives and achievements and so forth that we're accustomed to hearing. And look, in some sense, that's what a president has to do in a State of the Union address. I get that. All presidents do it of both parties. But I do think, Brett, that you're onto something when you suggest that he had a chance here, had he chosen it, to do a kind of a reset for his administration
of
growing out of the current crisis in Europe. And I think he's basically chose not to do that because he didn't want to, or he was afraid the party wouldn't agree, or it wouldn't work, or whatever. But you look at the issues that he's in trouble on. He's in trouble on inflation. He didn't really tell us anything tonight new about inflation that he was going to do that would afford any kind of near-term relief. He didn't really tell us anything about the border that made it clear that this continuing flood of illegal immigrants who cross the border every day, he stated some things that they would do, but there was no promise that that was originally going to get better. The lawlessness in the cities, he talked as much about police reform as he did about crime. So that just gives you a sample of the things that are confronting him, that the public is upset about, and that he addressed in some way, but mostly in a government program style, without the promise really of immediate relief.
All right, let's bring back in our panel. Ben Domenech, publisher of The Federalist, Dana Perino, co-anchor of America's Newsroom and co-host of The Five, Harold Ford Jr., former Tennessee congressman and CEO of Empowerment and Inclusion Capital. Let's take it around the group and see what you thought. Dana,
I want to see if there's well, let me be generous and say that there were 91 applause lines, but I have to say, I thought the speech was uninspired. I agree that it sounded like he did not actually change anything. It's almost as if they had the speech, it fell on the floor, all the pages got shuffled around, and they just put it back together, and they didn't actually reorder it. There were no transitions. There was no rhetorical lift. The strongest part of the speech was definitely the beginning and the very end. That's usually good, because that's what people mostly remember. But I have to say, he goes from Ukraine straight into something that has already been given 3 Pinocchios by the Washington Post, which is a lie about the 2017 tax cuts, that it only went to help 1% of Americans. Again, that's not me saying that. That's the Washington Post with the 3 Pinocchios. I also think that he didn't say the words Build Back Better, but everything about Build Back Better was in here. You didn't hear a lot about energy independence. States of the Union addresses are supposed to be about your accomplishments, but many of their accomplishments, or what they consider accomplishments, are actually now vulnerabilities. One, I would say the American Rescue Plan, that Americans have cracked the code. They know that more spending has led to inflation. Energy policies, we see what's happened in Europe when you get too dependent on foreign sources of energy and don't produce your own, even while you're trying to transition to greener energy. I also think I have to give negative points for the mention
I'm not going to
in the same sentence of the killings of the police officers, Rivera and Mora, with this line that they will he wants to hold law enforcement accountable.
Maybe